if you are a very sensitive person, a highly sensitive person, I am 100% sure that you are someone that senses not only what's happening around your life, but you can also sense what's happening in the world. It's almost like you can read in between the codes of the things that are moving, that are expressing in the world. And I'm sure you have noticed, you have seen that it seems like astrology became finally a normal thing to talk about and a normal tool to use to navigate our lives or experiences. I am very happy. It's 2026 and I'm super excited to see that we are finally integrating this kind of tools, especially for people like us that sense so much life that it feels like the way we relate with the world is through our feelings. And I feel like astrology is one of those tools that allowed us to translate the things that we feel into words. That's one of the many ways how astrology can support us, how astrology can be a helpful tool. And yeah, I am super excited to be at a place in my life where I have been working so much with astrology and with psychology, and I created my own way of mixing these two spaces to support my life, to support who I am, to navigate the experiences and the things that present in my life with way more ease and way more flow. So the two main subjects I'm going to be talking about in this video is astrology and shadow work, how I integrated both to use this magical tool of astrology in a way that actually works, that actually gives me benefits, and as I said, that is like fun and exciting. A very brief, short explanation of kind of like the main elements we work with astrology. We know that we have 12 signs, we have 12 houses, and we have 12 planets, and they all when we look at a chart, we see that there's a combination of all of them in different and many the infinite ways. You can look at the ocean as God or universe or consciousness, and each of the waves of the ocean is each of us. Like each person can be one of those waves. So and the beauty in that is that when we look at the ocean, we see that every single wave is different, right? So I like to look at this analogy because it helps us so much to understand what astrology is and how we can use astrology. So no matter how different we are, no matter how crazy, I don't know if we want to say that a combination, a chart is crazy. I think, yeah, that some people that use astrology to judge, to create judgment, might say like, oh my God, that's a crazy chart. And no, it's just an expression of that ocean, and unique expression of that ocean, and unique wave. How would you judge the ocean and its waves? It's all beautiful and it's all needed. The shape of one wave, even if it's just like very different, it might be exactly what the rest of the waves need to be able to be expressed. I hope that example, that analogy is touching a place in your heart, and you're able to connect with the way how I would like to invite you to look at astrology. We all are a unique expression of life, of consciousness, of God, of we all have different ways to connect with that thing that created us, that thing that created life. So we all are that beautiful, unique, and needed expression of life. The shadow work element in how I use astrology, I think it's almost like it feels natural to astrology. I know there's a lot of astrologists that don't even mention shadow work in the way they use or they speak about astrology. It's so integrated in the way they just talk about it. I think it's good, it's helpful to understand that they are kind of two different spaces. And if you're curious about shadow work, there's so much that you can learn and bring to astrology, and do what I've been doing, like combine them and create your own way in how to use them together. So I think I want to explain first what shadow work is, and then we will go into how astrology works and how we can use these two together. So shadows, every single human has shadows. The same way we have these characteristics, aspects in our personalities that are so bright and so alive. Everyone says like, oh my gosh, she's so charming, she's so funny, she's so creative, she's just la la la. We also have some aspects of our personality that are, we can say, difficult for others, that make people feel a little unsafe, that they're awkward, that those awkward parts of our personalities. Where they come from, it happens all, for the most part, I want to say, in childhood. Some people had very light, loving, wonderful childhood, and maybe later in life they started having difficult situations. But in the moment we start creating some survival mechanisms, for most people it's in childhood. Shadows are the things that we reject, we deny, we do not accept about ourselves, and as the name expresses, we put them in the dark, we put them in the shadow. We deny them, we don't accept them. So we start doing all kind of crazy behaviors to deny it, to not show them. And what happens in our psyche, it's funny, it's so interesting and so fascinating when we start opening up to explore these parts of ourselves, because we all have them. It's that that idea of denying them is that we are kind of like blind to them. We don't, when people start saying like, oh my god, yes, you kind of. So one, sorry that I'm going in many different directions, but one exercise that you can do to find out about your shadows, and I'm 100% sure if you do your little research, you will find this same exercise everywhere, is that you choose your closest people, 3 to 5 people that you feel seen, loved by, and you ask them to share with you 3 aspects of your personality that they think that that are challenging and that are difficult. And the crazy thing is that usually they name the same things. When I did the exercise, people started saying like, oh my god, you're reactive. A lot of the time it's almost like you're so sensitive that you react right away. When people started saying that, I think I was like, it can be a little uncomfortable for first time to hear about these aspects, again, because we have denied them. It's just insane. Even now that I'm explaining this in this video, it's just like, it's so crazy, but it's so real, and I want to bring a little bit of compassion here, because if we deny them, it's not because we have like a bad intention of, I want to hide this from you. It's a survival mechanism. If you want to survive if maybe you are in the group of the most popular girls at school, you want to belong, you do everything that you need to do in order to survive and to still be what people want to see from you, what is acceptable. And we are kids and we don't have context, so that's usually when it starts happening in our childhood. We just, without knowing what we're doing, we create all these behaviors and we start creating this little collection. For some people can be a lot, for some people can be just a few. And something also important and powerful to know is that there are moments, there are experiences in our lives that invite us to take a look at them. It's almost like we are having repetitive situations, experiences, where maybe we hear comments, people saying, you're so reactive, oh my god, you're reacting so much, and usually it's just like automatically, like Okay, something that is important to explain is that because we deny them, that doesn't mean that they disappear, right? I hope that's making sense. That they are in the shadow of who we are. They are in us, they don't go anywhere. So when people say comments about being reactive, that people that are just kind of aggressive, and you can tell right away that you always have like that little tension, like there's something there. That trigger is a sign that there's a shadow. Always when there's a triggery situation, you sit with that emotion and you find a shadow. So that's something very magical about psychology too. When we talk about triggers, I'm sure you have seen this in many other places, that triggers are usually an invitation that whatever is activating in us, that trigger, it is wanting to be released, to be dissolved. Sometimes we are not ready. So it's important also to be aware of that, to be compassionate and to be patient. But yeah, if there's a reaction in our body, in our bodies, that's a sign that there's something wanting to be released, to be expressed. To a good way to look at the shadows, compassionate way to look at our shadows, because I said it can be a little challenging to look at them. 100% sure you have seen that there are places where there's a lot of dogs and cats, street dogs and street cats, poor things are on the streets, like running away from everyone, and some of them get to be put in a cage. So, and they get super wild and they have this crazy behavior and reactivity. Those can be the most accurate analogy that we can use for our shadows. They are the wild parts of ourselves, aspects of ourselves that no one has loved, that they haven't received care, attention. They're the shadow. So it's so powerful and so beautiful when we finally take a look at them. And there are many exercises. You will find a lot of information if you would like to dive deeper in this subject. Meditations where you sit in front of your shadows, you put all your shadows in a little chair, you look at them, you start describing them, or their bodies are, how they talk, and you start just feeling so much love and compassion because you realize that it's a part of you, and you're just like, you just want to hug them and bring them into the life and give them everything that they haven't received. I know this sounds like a lot, but we all experience different versions of this with different parts of ourselves. But I think it's just so powerful to realize that we can do that we all have them, we all have those shadows, and we have the power to integrate them, to bring them in the light. There's an incredible, like, now that I'm talking about it, I'm just like feeling all the energy of this work, of this tool. And I just need to share it. So when we talk about a shadow, something that we need to understand, it's only a shadow because there's light. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a shadow. So I would love you to receive this, because it gives you excitement and just lets you see the power of this. So the work and the invitation is to bring the shadow into the light. And the light usually has a gift. The other side of this is an alchemy process. When we bring that shadow into the light, there's usually a power, a gift. So let's start mixing this now with astrology. If we think about Mars is the planet of, how can a good way to describe it? I don't want to go too crazy describing astrology, but sex and aggression is how most people describe Mars, right? So if we think about aggression, right? A very explicit way to visualize, to feel into that energy, it's the warrior. A lot of people talk about Mars as the warrior planet. And if we go, in our imagination, and you imagine you create a warrior, warrior in a war, like, they're not thinking. They're just a warrior. It's made to kill and to win the war, right? It's so powerful. So when we are, you know, like in that energy, feeling the energy of a warrior, we start coming, you know, into our lives, because we don't live in a not anymore, we don't live in a world that we see people on horses on the streets killing other armies or things like that. But a version of that, you know, like a form, a representation of that, are athletes, freaking warriors, you know, people that we just saw at the Olympics. So we can have physical warriors, we can have mental warriors. Like, the warrior energy is the action energy, the energy that just has that power, that fire, that takes you to take that action, to do that thing. When we think about what is it that makes us move to do things, to take action, that's our Mars. That's Mars energy. We all know that sometimes we take action from a grounded place, from a place of integrity, and sometimes we take action like a blind person, like in animals, without thinking, that we are impulsive. So Mars has that, you know. Mars especially, it's a planet because it's made to take action. It's just a lot of energy. If we didn't have Mars, if we didn't have that thing that makes us take action, imagine who we would be. It's just like thinking humans without that thing that makes us take action, we would be just like melting. It's crazy. Anyways, so that energy especially, it's kind of like a blind energy. It's an energy that humans still are integrating. And it's funny to talk about this because that's a lot of what we are going to see this year, a lot of Mars energy. So it's a masculine energy, and it's an energy that can be blind if we don't learn how to work with it. So with all this explanation, what I want to say is that there are high vibrations and low vibrations of everything. There's aspects, characteristics of humans that are, we can say, you know, greater than others, right? There are different expressions and different levels of that. Some of the astrologists talk about first level, second level, and third level. Third level is almost like goddesses, gods and goddesses level, you know, like a level of consciousness that is so elevated. And we are figuring out, we are learning. You know, if we think about people that are very deep in spirituality, people that live in temples, that have invested their whole lives to live in alignment, you know, all these things, they are pretty much close to the third level. But still, we humans, we look at, you know, where we are in humanity at the moment, you know. We are consciousness, we are still evolving our consciousness. And we still experience the three levels. The first level, it's a very kind of primal, like very, we don't think through too much. We just do, you know, we feel reactive. And if we think about Homo sapiens, you know, it's kind of like, okay, take action, do this, reproduce, make babies, eat, kill, to eat, you know. And there's the second level, which is where most humans are. So when we think about those different levels of expression of the different things, the different energies we are that warrior, that action energy, but we are love energy too. Venus, right? Venus is the planet of love, how we express and receive love. And there are different levels of that, right? There's a very, I want to say, primal also way to express love in a very elevated way of, you know, we can say that elevated way of loving is the unconditional love. When we separate from our ego, we just love from source, from our hearts, from that higher consciousness. Another a planet that we can use here, the mind, Mercury rules the mind. And we also can see that we can use the mind to overthink, to overstimulate, to manipulate, to analyze, to judge. And there's a beautiful level that I know all have experienced, when we can see clearly, and we can see with flow, with ease, that ideas just kind of flow in our minds, that we even, without searching, receive ideas, inspirations, clarity, right? We can say that in meditation, that's where we want to get. That's what we do. We learn how to train our minds to be able to be in alignment with Mercury, to allow Mercury to be expressed through us with that ease. But I'm including myself in the bucket maybe of the first level that is still learning how to use our minds. Anyways, I hope this is making sense. So now that we understand that there are different levels of how we express astrology through our human experience, if we can say, through the wave each of us from that big ocean that humanity is, then we can see how shadow work. It is so similar to what I just described of the 3 levels of consciousness. There is aspects that are in the shadow, the first level. We can say that Mars, for example, the aggressiveness, reactivity, they're ready to kill, they're ready to destroy. That's the shadow. But get that warrior seated in front of you. That's your inner warrior, and feed them. Probably they're hungry after being in war for a while. Give them a bath, good clothes. We are getting very creative here, right? You do you create your own version of relating with these parts of yourself and connecting with them and treating them in the way that feels inspiring for you. But yeah, a good way is to visualize them and start feeling like, okay, that inner warrior of me is been in that reactivity, in that survival mode for too long. What does it need? It needs a hug, it needs a space, it needs a shower, I don't know, it needs chocolates. But softening up, probably it needs a little bit of that softness. But the one thing I want to say, the key to integration, first step to integration, to work with our shadows, is to have that little moment of seeing them as a part of you, seeing them inside of you, or you can write down, you can do whatever, it helps you to see them as a part of who you are. But the key there is acceptance. Okay, you are a crazy wild animal. Sure, there's a crazy wild creature in me. It has lived there for many years, but what an amazing opportunity I have right now, that I know I can love you, I can accept you, and you're gonna go from wild to integrated human aspect of my personality. And potentially you're gonna show me the gift that you have for me. I wanna say that most sensitive people, most highly sensitive people, we have a lot of self-awareness. Maybe you already have done a little bit of therapy, and we already have a little understanding of what are those difficult aspects of our personalities. It's almost like we always get the same feedback from work, from our friendships, from our romantic relationships, from family members. They always tell us, you're so reactive, you are, I don't know, so sensitive, so aggressive, you're always gossiping. And you maybe have seen that the gossiping is being always creating these crazy dynamics. Or maybe you are avoidant, maybe you're that person that never gets back to your friends, you never text back, and you're losing all your friends. We all know what are those behaviors, what are those things. Even if it's hard to admit it, that's where the gold is. So the way now we can work, I will share a little example. It's always a little uncomfortable to talk about our own shadows, but it's so helpful as well. So that's another invitation that I want to give you. Once you feel a little bit like you integrated, you are okay, you know, like, yeah, that little monster is part of who I am. Not when it's painful, because when it's painful, it means that it's still tender. You need to give it a little bit more time. But when you start just like admitting it, okay, yeah, that's part of who I am, it's very good to bring it up. Maybe you are in a good way, in a way that feels refreshing, you know, like playful, in a group of friends, in a party or whatever, the way you feel, you know, I'm doing it here in a video. You bring it up because the more we talk about it, the less charge it starts having. Once we understand a little bit of our charts and the main energies of our charts, your rising, it's what's going to tell you what your ruler is, what's the planet that rules you. There are, you know, most people talk about the main three, which is the sun, the rising, and the moon. Those are your main rulers, but the big guy, the most important one, is your rising. The thing with astrology is that, especially if you're a creative, if you are a sensitive human, as I am, it's so fascinating, it's so romantic. It's just like we can take flight and we can go in so many places. I feel like the more intellectual way of experiencing life, I feel like if you are purely looking at aspects of personality from a psychological perspective, can be, for me, it can be very boring. It's just like it gives you labels. You are a narcissist, you are I don't know, you have depression, you have ADD, you know. And I mean, come on, if you're a creative person, you know what I'm talking about. There's way more. And that's what we get from astrology. It's just beautiful, you know? Astrology has been around for so many years, and there are so many people describing, interpreting astrology. So just go and have fun and find that beautiful way to describe your energies that rule you, you know, that describe that little freaking monster that's being inside of you. So you can have fun, and it can be more exciting to make that monster, because remember that monster also carries a freaking power. Forgive my language, but right? It's like if we just talk about someone being a narcissist, having narcissistic behaviors, it's just like it's so limited, and it's just like it gives you anxiety just by thinking, you know, in that terminology. But that might work for some people. That's what I like to insist in the highly sensitive and very creative minds. I know we want more, we can see more. So what I do, and it's super recent also, it's been active lately for me, so I can speak from that place. I get curious and I start finding what might be the needs of those energies, what they might need, so those shadows can feel at home, feel loved, feel integrated, they can feel part of who I am. So the racing in areas, sometimes it can be very impulsive. So sometimes I can take action from that warrior that is blind, that just knows how to go for it. Right? Sometimes I see myself in situations where I'm like, whoops, I didn't mean to say that. I didn't mean to do that. So I see it with that, and I realize, okay, that warrior needs a little bit of presence. How can I express? Because especially, I'm speaking from my experience, you feel for you, but these are my own current examples. My Aries rising needs, like, it's non-negotiable that I need to express that energy. The way I found with my other Neptunio, I have a lot of Neptune also. Neptune is in my other ruler. There's a lot of Venus also in my chart. So Venus, Neptune are very gentle, soft energies. Jupiter is a little bit more hyper. There's more energy. And Mars, you guys already had a little introduction about Mars. So how that warrior can express that warrior energy, that action energy, that, you know, it's just like it's fire inside of me a lot of the times. I found that yoga does it for me. We create a lot of heat in our bodies with the breath when we are, doing all the poses and the flows. And the flows take us into that soft but strong energy. That's the type of warrior I am. I'm not mainly only Mars kind of warrior. There's some people that are like just that, that are pure Mars. That kind of people might need to be an athlete, an Olympic athlete, a physical trainer. Who knows? I don't know, or someone that actually goes to war. I don't know. So that's what I started feeling into to help integrate this energy. After I had the little conversation and I brought them into my consciousness, like, okay, the sensitive ones, that come from all the Pisces energy that I have and the Venus, I know that they need like environments that support, environments and relationships and activities that support that softness. For my Venus, I have to be around beautiful things. I have to go to beautiful places. I have to be in nature. I have to watch romantic movies. I have to eat delicious things, like everything related with the fine things in life. I have to give myself, and it's not a have to, I get to. It feels so good. And I feel like that's when it integrates the most, when I create some, because my Venus comes from Taurus and I have a lot of Taurus energy. So when I provide that safety for myself, for the Pisces energy, Neptune and Jupiter energy, it's a lot of creativity and a lot of spirituality. So I've been cultivating and creating practices and environments and relationships where they just thrive, those energies feel expressed. That is super key also, to start understanding that those energies want to express. I feel like I can record a whole other video or just keep talking for hours about the things that I started to type in to. Now that I've been integrating these energies, now that I've been bringing these shadows into my life, like the gifts that started waking up in me are unreal, are beautiful. I might keep this for another video. They're so precious and they're kind of new that I think I want to give them a little bit more time so I can share from a more integrated place. But just for you to know that it's been a little while for me now that I've been working with this way of approaching life, of working with my shadows, of working with astrology. And to be honest, it's just like so fresh for me because I just had a conversation with someone in the spirituality space, someone that I admire and I've been learning so much from. And it was the first time that I'm like, oh my freaking God, like the investment I've been doing in taking care of this part of who I am, of the shadows. Like I'm tapping into so much beauty, so much magic. As I said, I will for sure share more, but I guess those were just tangible things that they're just like so fresh in my mind. They are happening recently, so they have been happening recently. So I hope this is giving you ideas, inspirations. I hope this was clear. I am extremely passionate about sharing, especially with people that are sensitive as I am, how we can support our lives, how we can get to express that beautiful energy, humans, those beautiful humans we are, in a safe, more aligned way, with more ease, experiencing way more flow and enjoyment in life. Always feel welcome in this space. If you want to ask things, if you want to share your own experience, I would love to hear from you. For now, that's all. Thanks so much for being here, and until my next video.